black thing go from left to right, and I thought, I'm going to die out here. No one's ever going to know. I couldn't believe what my eyeballs were showing me. I'll never forget how evil the eyes were. It was horrible. I mean, I've never seen nothing that evil.
It ran towards me at a rate that I can't even explain. Turned and stared at me, and this look of, I just want to kill you. I want to say it was human, but it wasn't.
He was yelling at me to grab a gun, grab a gun. I was like, for what? He said, just grab a gun. And there's footprints all the way to the door of my house. It had went inside my garage, all the way to the door.
911, what are you reporting?
Jesus Christ, you better...
Sir?
Zia!
Hello?
Get somebody out here.
What's going on now, sir?
That son of a bitch is about 6'9", I don't know.
Do you see him now, sir?
Yes, I'm looking right at him.
Uh-oh.
You're listening to Sasquatch Chronicles. Check us out online at sasquatchchronicles.com. If you've had an encounter, email me. My email address is wes@sasquatchchronicles.com. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Got a great show planned for you. Going to be speaking to Doug. And Doug actually comes out of California. He was working up in the mountains. And I'll kind of let him explain the type of work he does. But there was a night that turned very aggressive. And Doug was worried for his life. And the more I was listening to his encounter, I was thinking to myself, I wonder what set these things off. I really wonder what made them come in and be so aggressive. And towards the end of the encounter, you'll understand why they came in and why Doug was going to pay the price. And I feel for Doug. I mean, it really is a terrifying encounter, especially when you don't really believe in Bigfoot and you think it's all nonsense, and it's put right in front of your face. If you'd like to be on the show, shoot me an email. My email address is wes@sasquatchchronicles.com. Let's get to it. Let's quit dilly-dallying around. I want to welcome Doug to the show. Doug, thanks for coming on.
Anytime.
Yeah, thank you again for coming on, Doug. And, your encounter took place in California up in the mountains. If you would, to kind of take us back to that moment. Tell us what you were doing and what happened.
Well, I was working, operating a heavy machinery that is stationary, and it consists of a bunch of pipes and pumps that make a whole heck of a lot of noise. And, it's inside of we contained it inside of what I believe to be a C train. It's like a big metal box used for storage. Mostly you see them on freight trains and stuff, but that's what we had this machine in, and it was bottomless because we were going into the ground, but that's besides the fact. And I worked graveyard shifts from probably about 9 o'clock at night to 9 in the morning. And this particular night wasn't the first, I guess, that I denied the first thing that kind of happened. And I think I talked a little bit about that to you yesterday. And it involved one of the guys that I did work with quitting. And he didn't give us really any reason why. And I just thought we had kind of spotted a mountain lion. Something had ran past me that was pretty damn big on all fours. And we kind of used this thermal scope I have to spot it, and I thought it was a mountain lion because we had tracks all over and it was stalking the camp, and he swore different, and he didn't say what he thought it was. He pretty much quit. So back to that night, I'm working, and it's really late, and I'm kind of the workaholic type, and I just stay on the ball because you have to. And I was just working away, and, all the noises in the world were happening with this machine. And it was a rainy night, not like downpour, but raining. You know, it was wet out and it was windy, and I'm hearing things hit this metal wall, which of the C train, which is directly to my back, which I have to face the machine. So my back is always to this wall, which is actually facing a mountain that comes straight down to it, which is all forest. It's not developed at all. And the whole property is not really developed at all, except for the little flat that we're on with a driveway that goes out to the road. And I'm hearing it, and I kind of stop, and I'm like, wait, like, what is that? And I kind of just shook it off, you know, and I wasn't hearing it anymore. And so I just went back to work, and, you know, some time passed, and then I started hearing it again, and I'm like, yeah, well, you know, it's loud, and I'm thinking that it's trees with nuts or something falling on the trailer, and I'm kind of thinking in my head, like, how's it hitting the wall? Why is it not landing on top of it? I just, like I'm saying, I was just writing everything I was hearing off until I hear something big hit, just boom, hard, loud, scared the bejesus out of me. And you know, there was no denying that. And I thought someone threw something at it, or I, you know, like I said, I was kind of writing it all off, and I decided I'm going to shut the machine down and take my lunch and, you know, have a smoke and do whatever else. And I kind of went, you know, about 2 hours, you know, not taking my lunch. And so I just kind of shut it down, and kind of I was actually having a chuckle about it. I remember I was kind of like laughing like that, man, that scared the crap out of me. Oh, I wasn't even entertaining what it might have been. And I walk over to we have this C train that we work in, and then there's a motorhome for employees to sit down and have a break. And we had like a TV with like a DVD player in there, but I never used it. And, you know, I just kind of grabbed my smokes, and I remember walking up to the trailer and thinking, why is the door open? And I'm like, oh, I'm kind of thinking, like, I know that it's raining, and I know I always shut this door, and I don't know why this door is open. And I go to like light up a smoke, and I look back at the pump room, which is the C train, and right next to it, I would say about 10 feet off the trailer is where the trees begin. And I'm about 40 yards away from that, maybe even maybe less. But next to this big oak tree that's pretty much dead, I see this big black mass. And I'm looking at it for a second, and I'm thinking, man, and it sounds crazy, but somehow in the rain and in all the darkness, it was darker. And I was like, wow, like what is that? And I'm noticing that whatever's up against it has kind of, I can tell it's like hugging the tree with its like right arm. And I'm like, what is this? And I was like, is this a bear? This is a bear. And I don't really remember what happened to my cigarette. I was thinking about that yesterday. I don't remember what I did with the damn cigarette, but I remember right when I saw it and I got that thought process through, it dropped its arm and it started moving. Like, the way best I could describe it is when like a cheetah or like a lion is really close to something and they're moving really slow and they're about to break into the dead sprint to catch whatever it is they're catching. It was very much like that, moving very slow, and it's all dead branches. We cut them all down because they were hanging over everywhere, and they were falling during the rain, and so we decided to cut them down, and it's stepping on them, and I'm not hearing anything. I'm hearing, like, it went dead silent. Just, I almost think the rain stopped, but right as exactly as that's happening, I'm going for this crossbow that we have on a rack right next to the front door because of this mountain lion that's kind of been all around the camp and in the shop area. And I pick it up and I get it in my trigger right hand. I put my hand under it, and right when that happened, this rock comes flying from my direct, I want to say 3 o'clock, and comes flying in. A big, almost, I want to say baseball size rock, boom, and it lands right in front of me, and it shoots under the motorhome, and now this thing is closing the gap, and I drop the crossbow, and that's when, like, I could no longer really, I want to say I was writing this whole situation off in my head. Like, nothing was serious to me until that rock hit my right in front of me, and then I knew there was more than one of these things, whatever it was, and I couldn't make out its face. I couldn't make out from whatever was kind of up above, maybe abdomen level, but the light from our from the pump room was kind of casting his lower half, and like I told you yesterday, I could tell it was a he. I could tell it was really dark, and I want to say that it thought that I couldn't see it because that's how it was moving. It was moving like it was going to sneak up on me, but I knew it was there, and I knew that this was happening, and I was like, I remember like starting to scream, like, oh, I heard this call on your show. It's this elderly man. He's calling in and he's reporting, and he does this like random scream, and when he did that, it made my heart drop because that's what I was doing. I know that I was like talking out loud, and I was like, yeah, yeah, I know that feeling where it's like things were so surreal and so quiet, and I had this strange feeling that I was surrounded. And I remember running to my car, getting in my car. Something definitely hits my back. I guess it was my driver's side, my back door of my little car. Whatever it was really dented my door. Later on I saw it, but things were being thrown, and I wasn't hearing what I heard later, but I don't want to like put it on like it was like monkeys chattering in a cage or anything, but it was like this, like these strange barking, whooping type, I don't know. It was crashing in these strange, like weird bark, like fast. Whatever they were making noise vocally, but the things crashing is what kind of scared the crap out of me. And I thought that they were going to like come. So I get my car in first. I'm screaming whatever obscenities and whatever else. I get out of there. I turn, I hit this driveway that is just a muddy mess. And it's a cliff pretty much. And it's like a big horseshoe. And you got to pull around down to this gate that you have to unlock. It's a combination lock gate. And we always spun the numbers, which in retrospect really sucked. And and I am sweating talking about this. I was sweating yesterday when I was talking to you about it. I'm sweating now. Oh man. So I'm thinking about driving through the fence. I remember thinking that. I remember screaming out loud some profanity like F, I'm not going to make it. And I remember getting out, putting my e-brake on, and I put my car in neutral and I pulled right up to the gate. And I remember spinning the numbers, unlock and lock, pulling the chain, kicking the gate open, and I'm frantic. I'm totally frantic. And I turn around, I'm right up against the hood of my car. That's how close I pulled to the gate, that I didn't even almost have room to reach the lock. I squoze in to do it, and I remember turning around and just seeing this one big red dot behind this tree. And this one that's standing there makes the one, I mean, I guess I can't really gauge how big the other one was. I'm going to say there's no way it was under 7 foot, but this one was absolutely ridiculous large. Yeah, when I saw it, I screamed. I remember screaming the instant I focused in on my brake lights, seeing it, how close it was, and its posture was like it had its eye around this branch that came up at maybe a, I don't know, I want to say like a 60-degree angle, and it was hiding the back of it, the remainder of its left side of its face, and it was holding onto this branch with its left arm in like an L, and it was just huge. I explained to you yesterday, Wes, to me, it looked like a refrigerator and a half standing on 2 bar stools, big, tall bar stools, huge. And I just remember it, as soon as I screamed, it's hard to put everything in the time frame in which it was happening, because in my mind it was happening fast, but at the time it was happening very slowly and fast, I guess, at the same time. But I remember it snapping off the branch, and that was absolutely terrifying. And as soon as he snapped the branch off, he fired off this, I keep saying he because, like I said with the other one, it was definitely a male. No two ways about that. And it just fired off this sonic boom. The way that I've never physically felt sound like this thing emitted.
Did it roar? Is that what you're describing?
No. That would be a roar is not the sound that it produced. Like I was saying yesterday, it was like a roar, a growl, and almost like a howl inside of it from the depths of hell. And it just hit me. And I remember screaming as it was happening, and it made me shut my eyes. I remember it shutting my eyes, and then it started coming forward really, really fast. And I remember blacking out because I can't account for how I got in the car. I don't know how I got in the car. I thought long and hard about it on a couple of occasions, and I don't know how I got back in my vehicle. But I got back in, and I remember when I was shutting the door, he was really close, and he threw something, hit the front end of my car, and I don't know what he threw. And I remember you're asking me if it was the branch or whatever, but I don't know. And I remember this look on its face, like some sick, sadistic look of almost enjoyment, but almost he meant business at the same time. I don't know how to explain it. I want to say he was smiling. If it could be smiling, his mouth is kind of the thing that sticks in my head more than any other part of it. His mouth was this strange, almost grin, and is sunken in. I don't even know. They were red. His eyes, and I remember that being really fast because I remember I went into second gear and tried to drive with my e-brake on. I got my e-brake off and I slid down the hill. I got on the road and I was making this noise. I remember I was having difficulty with it, and I was, I don't know how else to say it to you, but I was like heaving. And I've never, I don't know, man, I'm sweating.
It's like a panic attack, you know? Sounds like a panic attack.
I don't know how, I remember thinking that I need to call 911 and that being part of the panic because it's a no service area. It says no service on your phone when you get on the road, when you get off the freeway. So if you get into a car wreck or anything on this, even the road, to get to the road to where I was, you're in trouble because and the motorist doesn't help you. You're going to be walking for a long time. And I couldn't call anybody. And I remember thinking all the way down the road, all the way back through the mountains, all the way until I got, and I'm making this noise for a long time too. I didn't calm down for a long time. And I remember when I finally made it to the city, little town that is your first stop. I just remember wanting to call. I needed to call I called my brother and he picked up. And I told him what happened, and he's kind of laughing at me. And I'm like, dude, this isn't funny. I'm freaking out. I left the gate open. I left everything. I'm not. And this is the part of the story where I want to say is the beginning of the demoralizing feeling of the whole entire thing. Because I told him and I told my girlfriend, and they kind of wrote me off. And I'm going through some serious emotions over this. This is I know the story sounds crazy. I know that it's unbelievable and it's difficult to articulate. Really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you feel like your life is in danger the whole time, and I understand freaking out. And I understand, too, how alone you feel after an encounter. Nothing hurts more than when family's like, you're full of it. Or, come on. You can accept that from strangers. But when it's family, it hurts even more. How close was he to your car when you saw the face?
Right. I'm laughing out of, like I said yesterday, I'm laughing out of nervousness. Close enough to where I think that if he wanted to, he could have probably put his arm through the window and, man, real close, feet, like under 10 feet. In my mind, he bluff charged me. If I would have been out of the car, he'd have got me. But for some reason, that the being in the car, I think, which is baffling to me. Absolutely, it's probably the scariest part of the whole thing is that somehow I'm losing time. I can't think of how I don't remember getting in the car. I don't remember it at all. And I want to say, coming for it, I had this feeling that they wanted me to go now. Go now. That's all I could think of is they want you to go. They want you to go. You need to, this is theirs. You need to go. Over and over in my head. And then later when I'm thinking about it, Wes, I'm thinking, what did I do to deserve? What did I do? I didn't really, I love animals. I didn't do anything to anyone. And it's crazy to think about, how I was sought out. Or maybe I don't know. And how many were there? I'll never know.
No, I get it. And I understand the way you feel. I mean, and sometimes you don't have to do anything to set them off. For the audience, can you kind of describe the face of the one that you saw? I know you mentioned red eyes and kind of a big mouth, but did he? Well, if you would you describe what you saw, what you remember, of course?
Well, I know that he was black, and my mind immediately goes to, I remember seeing his left arm I was telling you about holding the branch. Well, the water, he looked like less than fur, like he was covered in moss. Like he was really just dirty. You never see those trees that have like the algae kind of moss looking stuff kind of on his arms. It was like black, scraggly moss. I want to say it just looked like nasty moss, but he was black. I could see the water on it. I remember that. And I didn't see his feet. I don't remember his feet at all, but I remember his arms being really big and really long. Like our arms go to maybe a little below our waist, or maybe, standing up, they kind of go right to your sides. His arms went at least down to his knees, at least. And his legs looked relatively small and kind of skinny. Yeah, they kind of looked skinny to the rest of his body. Oh, I'm just sweating.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate sharing it. I know it's terrifying. One thing I'm really curious about was the eyes. You mentioned red. Now, do you think it was eye shine or
I think it was my brake lights.
lighten up his eyes, your brake lights?
That was the only, there's no lights anywhere in this vicinity of this. Zero. Well, you have to use your headlights, and you have to kind of use those in order to get in and out of the gate. But I didn't have my headlights on. I didn't have time to turn them on. So I was just like driving blind. So all there was my brake lights, and his eyes I want to say his eyes caught the light, that red light. His eyes were huge. Yeah, like his eyes were pretty damn big, as a matter of fact. Nothing like a human eye, but probably if you doubled the circumference, man, what can I say? I don't even know what to compare it to. They were big though. And I don't remember seeing any iris. It looked like one solid color. There's no like pupil iris like our eyes. This looked like one solid giant ball. And I remember thinking that its nose was kind of, it looked like its nose was pushed into his face. How we have, the bridge of your nose kind of tapers out, and then you've got, the tip of your nose. That's not how his nose was. His nose was pushed in, and he had two big, huge, flaring nostrils. And he was, man, thinking about the face, it's crazy. His mouth, I want to say, went literally from one side of his face to the other side of his mouth was huge. His mouth was huge. And I don't know whether I said it to you yesterday, but I want to say that he could probably bite my entire, like he could put his head, or his mouth could probably bite a giant chunk just out of your head. And he might take the whole damn thing. And I remember his body being like, this is going to sound crazy. He looked built. There was less hair on the abdomen and chest area than anywhere else. And you know what's crazy too? I want to say he had long hair, like matted, long hair that made it looked like his shoulders connected right to his lower jaw. Huge shoulders, no neck. And if there was, I didn't have time to, just the size of the upper portion of this, I don't even know, animal. I heard one of the interviews where someone was saying they want to say it was human. This wasn't human. No way. This was some savage beast.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that. Can I ask you, going back to that first one that you saw, I missed a point where you jumped in the car, but when you first saw it, was it standing up and then it went?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, standing up. It had its arm. It, for lack of a better way to explain it, it looked like it was kind of casually standing there with its arm around the tree. I firmly believe it thought I couldn't see it. It wasn't trying to hide. It was not making any attempt to hide because I saw it. I could see its lower half mostly, but I couldn't see from maybe mid chest up. And I just remember kind of like I was saying, I had no position on this subject. But up until things started getting thrown and something started moving towards me, I was like, this was like kind of a joke. Like I wasn't taking anything seriously. I was, I was kind of, not really. I didn't really think anything up until it took that. It like postured at me. That's the best way I can like say it. Like postured down, and it put both hands to its sides, and it started like slowly lifting its legs up and putting one down, and it put the other one down, and I'm like, oh, whoa, like, oh no, like I got it. This, I just was. I remember I was screaming, and I thought it was coming. Like that's why I say I don't think it thought I could see it because it was creeping up on me, and I could blatantly see that it was doing it, but I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's terrifying, man, especially when they come in like that. It makes me wonder a little bit, how soon did that guy quit before this happened?
Oh, it was, I think it was a week to the day. I want to say it was a week. I tried to call him last night to try and ask him a couple of questions. He didn't even pick up my phone call. I haven't talked to him since then or anything. It's not like we're good friends, but when that happened, I'll explain that a little bit so it can put kind of the situation into perspective for that guy. So I was walking from the opposite side of the property with a bunch of pieces to the equipment in like one of them plastic tote bins, and I wasn't walking fast because they're all galvanized steel. It's heavy, and I'm kind of just moseying on, and it's really cold at that time of year here in California. I'm sure everybody else would be like, oh yeah, great, yeah, you're in California, how cold? It was like 28 degrees in the mountains, and the ground was frozen, so it was cold. And we had a car. This particular individual, he would leave his car on with his heater on. So every now and then we get into it, and he'd have his headlights on. And if it weren't for those headlights pointed off and the light carrying, I wouldn't have seen this thing dart past me. And I know it was on all fours, but I thought it was because of the mountain lion. Immediately said it was a mountain lion. And I went and got him. We go grab the thermal scope. Like I explained to you, my buddy, he works at a place that makes them, and he gave me one to use, and so we could maybe spot it some nights, and we barely used it. And I grabbed that, and I gave it to him, and I grabbed the crossbow, and I remember we're looking up on the mountain, and there's a mountain that just goes straight up, and it's all bush, period, all bush. And I remember him looking, and it's quiet, and I remember him going, just screaming, "Whoa, there he is!" I remember panicking, and I'm like, "Oh, the mountain lion, blah, blah, blah." And he's like, not responding to me. And he showed me, he put the scope up to my eye, and from that position, I fired. And I remember hitting the tree. I remember seeing that what was confusing to me about this, and I don't know anything for sure about this, but it was looking around a tree, whatever it was, and its heat signature was less than, like, if I were to see you standing there, you would come out as very white because we had it on a green setting. But this was less than the normal setting, normal heat that you would get off of any type of living creature. And I remember thinking, like, why are the things not pinging on this really well? And I remember I shot the tree, and we ran into the motorhome, and that night all of us were there. There's 3 of us, and we woke the guy that we woke up that we worked with, and I was like, "Dude, we just saw the mountain lion. I tried to shoot it, and blah blah blah." And he's like, yeah, blah blah blah. Well, the next day comes around, and I go and I retrieve the arrow, and like I'm saying, I wrote a lot of this off, and I remember seeing the tree, and I didn't know that it was down inside of a little ravine. So what we were seeing was like the top half of the tree. The bottom of it was hidden by a hill. And I remember thinking, how could this mountain lion be looking at us if it's down there, but we could see it looking at us up here? And I just kind of was like, oh, it must have been halfway up the tree, and kept going, And now I know damn well, and then for the audience, this guy quit the next day. The guy who had the thermal scope, who was looking at it the whole time, I only saw that one little piece, and I fired the arrow. The guy quit, said nothing, quit, left, and he didn't even get paid. He left. He hasn't talked to us since. So I think after my experience, I want to believe that we saw, whatever, one of them. And
yeah, it sounds like it.
I fired an arrow at him, but I didn't get anywhere. I hit a tree that was just in that. The place is full of trees. I just fired, and I know I hit a tree. I pulled it out of it, but it wasn't the tree that it was up against. It was in the kind of same vicinity, but just closer to us. And man.
Yeah, that's scary, man. And I was curious on what had happened, and that actually makes more sense on why they were so aggressive with you. They have a weird vendetta streak about them. You can go look at the Ape Canyon account. You can go look at, there's all kinds of accounts. And a lot of times when you engage with them, they'll come back and make you pay. I've heard it over and over and over again where they will come back and make you pay. And I think, this is my opinion, which doesn't mean much, but I think they were coming back to make you pay. That guy quit, came back with more, and you start reaching for your crossbow, and they start throwing rocks, and they're coming in, and they're coming in, and they're coming in, and they're pissed. And it's probably best that you left. I think that would have gone bad really quick.
Oh, I don't think I'd be talking to you on the phone. That's for sure. I don't think I'd be talking to you in this interview. No matter, I don't know of, like, I remember talking to you, I don't know whether a gun would even be this the last one that I saw was so big. I've never seen anything. I don't even have anything to compare it to. The way that it moved was terrifying. The sight of it was, the instant I saw it, I screamed at the top of my lungs. And I remember, terrified is an understatement. Terrified is an understatement. And that noise will never leave me. Its mouth and that noise were the two things that later on, when I was trying to explain it to my brother, he was like, "What are you talking about?" When I was telling him about the scream, and it made I want to say it vibrated every organ and my skeleton inside of my body, enough to make me totally, like, free. I just froze and I shut my eyes. That was, wow. What makes a noise like that?
Yeah, and you do feel it when they roar and scream and growl at you. I mean, even a little growl, you'll feel it. It's bizarre, and I don't know if it's fear or if you're actually feeling it. It feels like you're feeling it, but it's hard to say. Is it fear? And the lost time thing, I think, when you have that lost time, it's one of those moments where your adrenaline's pumping, you're in shock, you're in fear, and you're just trying to survive and leave at that point. And like when you left, it sounded like you're having panic attacks leaving. And I don't blame you. I probably would have too. Did you ever go back to the job site, or did you? What happened with the job?
So I didn't talk to anybody for 2 days. I went home. I didn't call anybody after my brother, and I told my girl, and I kind of just sat in my room, and I wound up after 2 days. The guy I worked with was blowing me up because I'm sure he was there for those 2 days, and I told him I would never go back there, and he was like, "Why?" And I'm like, I've been done already with people telling me that, it only took two people to make me feel bad enough to where I had to kind of recalculate how I was going to tell this to someone, because I was already dealing with so much inside that I was starting to get really angry. The second day I was really angry, and I didn't want to hear any type of, somebody saying something to me about it. I wasn't even having. I wasn't mentally prepared to deal with, other than to maybe lash out, because I just don't know. That's my mental state that I was in. And I told him, I'm just not going back, and blah, 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 blah. And we kind of went back and forth. Why I don't want to talk about it. Why I don't want to talk about it. And, well, what about your tools? And I was like, you know what? Like, how about if you come with me tomorrow in the daytime? And I made sure to say, like, around noon, because to me, and especially on that property, because it's in between a bunch of mountains. So noon is the only time that direct sunlight ever really hits it. For probably about an hour is the only time that area gets true sunlight. And that's when I wanted to go. And so I went 3 days after, and I remember pulling up and looking at that tree that it was standing next to. And I just remember my heart sinking into my foot, is what it felt like, because that's what really put it into perspective, because it was dark. And yeah, I saw it the best I could there, but for some reason in the daytime, just that tree was just, and where it broke that branch, oh my God, that's how tall it was. Like, were you kidding me? And I pretty much loaded up my stuff And I went and got into my car, and he's like, "Where are you going? Where are you going?" And I was like, "I'm out of here, man. I told you I'm out of here." And he's been a friend of mine since we were children. I went to junior high with him, and I'm 38 right now, so I've known him my entire life. And about a month later, he called me, and he's just not a very reasonable individual, so I left the story out. But he decided he wanted to leave that area too, so we both quit. We told the people that we were actually working for, the one guy quit, then it was us, and that they'd have to find somebody else. And we got another bid at another winery to make a well house and do all this and divert water for them throughout their little winery plantation. And so we took that, and it's really close to the city. But the strangest thing, this is crazy, unbelievable. I get off the phone with you yesterday, and I remember, I was pulling up to work when I was talking to you, so I was probably moving pretty fast, and I had something to do, and I was meeting up with one of the partners, and he's like, "Get in the truck, come on, I want to show you something." And he takes me for a long drive into the mountains, and in between two mountains, he's like, "This is where we want to drill for water next." I told him, "You're gonna have to find somebody else, man. I ain't doing. I haven't gone for a hike since this. I haven't gone to the mountains. That right after I got off the phone with you was the furthest back I've gone in a really long time. Oh, I guess months, and I'm just not having it. I think I remember saying to you yesterday, I don't know how people go. They go looking for this.
It feels a little crazy when people do, especially after you have an encounter like yours and you see the size of them. And I get what you mean.
Nobody wants to look for these guys. Not the ones that know it. How do you? I don't know how there could be a good encounter. These are not friendly. These whatever the two up top, or however many there were up top, weren't, I guess, as bad. They're frightening to see just on the physical plane, period. But that third one, and its demeanor and that scream and whatever else, I would never want to wish that on my worst enemy, period.
Yeah, I really think it was provoked, though. I think the night before when you guys thought you were shooting at a mountain lion was probably one of these things. And I think it was... they were coming back to make you pay for it, and that's the situation. A lot of times you're in these situations, and the one thing that worries me is when I hear people who take their kids out hunting and they're well aware these things are in the area. And I always say the worst thing you can do is put a gun in someone's hand who's afraid. You're going to get shot. And I think it can go south really quick with these things when you start shooting or when you start engaging with them. Are you still there?
Oh I'm here. I can't even think about it. A child being there for this, that just makes my head spin.
Yeah.
Wow.
What do you think that these things are, Doug? I mean, what's your opinion?
Man, I don't know. Primate, definitely. I'd say that I want to say it had flat teeth. Like the front top teeth were flat. There was not, I don't remember seeing any. I mean, I guess I've never had a preconceived notion of what, a Harry and the Hendersons, I think, is pretty much it, but that is not what this is. I don't know. Primate, definitely. I want to say ape, but not. Definitely way bigger than one. Not a saying it. If someone describes it, no, I guess not. I can't say what somebody else sees, but I can't say it looked like a gorilla, and I can't say that it looked like a human. and just it just looked like a wild, primitive creature, man. It looked like a dirty, disgusting, and I didn't smell anything. I don't know why. I don't remember any smells. I don't, I know that I heard something on they smell some crazy smell. I don't remember smelling anything. I was out of my wits. I think the last thing I remember was the smell, but I don't smell nothing. I don't know. The long and the short of it is I don't know.
Yeah, I hear you. I appreciate it. I'm always curious on what people think, And, I think, honestly, in your encounter, I know it doesn't feel like it, but I think if they really were going to kill you, they would have. And the reason why I say that, there was an encounter that a guy was telling me about. This is years back. There's a place here in Washington called Ape Caves. And it's actually a pretty cool cave. It stays a certain temperature year round. Be 100 degrees outside. The cave never changes. And he was leaving this area, and they were getting paced out. They're having rocks thrown at them. And, I mean, it was a terrifying account. So he runs out of the cave, and he's running across. If you know the area, he's running to his car. There's a parking lot. And the moment he gets in his car, he starts it up, a branch hits his car. And I think that's a final get out of here. I think if you wouldn't have left, you would have been in big trouble. But I think, honestly, that big one, I know it doesn't bring you comfort at the moment. I think if he wanted to kill you, he would have.
No. In my mind, when I think back, I parked my car up against this RV that we had, this like fifth wheel RV, because I thought that if worst came to worst with this mountain lion, that I'd be able to at least get in my car and leave. So I parked it really close from that first deal with the crossbow thing. Well, you know what? Next time I'll just get in my car and I'll turn the headlights on, and at least I'll know what to look for. I'll be able to get out of there. And if I didn't have my car right there, the other place where I park it was down on the driveway, because like I said, it was muddy and raining, and my little beater car barely made it up that driveway because I clearly didn't have four-wheel drive, and the other guys had diesel trucks and they'd spin out up there. But I managed to finagle my car up there that night, and I don't know, somebody was looking out for me that night. Period.
Yeah, that could be too. The other thing I want to ask you too as well is, did you guys ever see a mountain lion up there?
No, we never actually got to see the actual mountain lion, but I took pictures of all of the prints that were around camp, and I took them in the morning before this happened. So when my coworker was getting on and I was getting off, the night before, it was really pouring rain, and apparently that mountain lion had been walking around all throughout, right where the situation happened up top, right by the room. It was walking right by me. They were right next to the container. They were right next to the RV, and you could follow him. And he went up the mountain, and I was like, "Wow, oh man, like this is serious." And inside of the RV, we had guns. We never used them. And I wanted to ask this guy that quit. I remember there was a property that was way far off. You could kind of see its porch lights. It was off on another mountain. But every morning, right before it got light outside, they would shoot automatic rifle rounds. And that's like extremely illegal in California. But like I said, we're real far back there, and I remember every morning I'd know that my coworker was about to come relieve me because, and coming up in the next couple hours, because I would hear those shots, and I would always think, like, why is he shooting in the dark? Like, why is he firing like that? And it wasn't semi-automatic. I know what that sounds like. This was automatic. And it would echo throughout the entire canyon. And I'm thinking in my head, maybe I should have been doing that. It's like,
Yeah.
we never fired any gun up there, ever. But we had them for the mountain lion.
Yeah, sometimes that goes bad too, though, when you do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Reminds me of Texas when I was down there and we were hearing chattering and roaring and it sounded like a monkey house. And I remember this farmer, he would go out and it was a shotgun was what he was using, but he would let go like 8 rounds. I'm sure he pulled this plug out because it was one after another, after another, after another. And I thought, what in the hell is this guy shooting at? Well, then all the activity picked up over where we were at. And I was like, oh, I bet you that's what he's shooting at. So I was curious. It makes me wonder why that guy would just go out there and unload, you know?
Man, no way. No way.
Yeah, it's a terrifying account. I'm so glad that you made it out, you know, and it's a warning to people, you know, things can go south. These things are smarter than people give them credit for, and they do have a vindictive streak, you know, where they will come back and make you pay. And I think that's what happened when you guys thought you were shooting at the mountain lion. I think you were probably shooting at one of these things, and they came back to make you pay. And I'm just so glad that you left. And, you know, I think what would help you the best is really look into it, you know, investigate it and try and learn as much as you can. And eventually the fear that you feel just thinking about it over and over and over, it starts to go away after time. But it helps to learn about it. You know, after my encounter, I was like, kill them all. I could care less. I was like, kill them all. And
I know, I identify with that.
Yeah, but after a while, you start to realize that they're not all like that. They're not all, you know, vicious killers. You know, a lot of them will turn around, just walk the other way. They really don't want to engage with you. They really don't want to fight with you. They just want to leave. But I understand the way you feel, and I understand the stress that you feel kind of reliving the encounter. But I appreciate you coming on and sharing it. I know it's not the easiest thing in the world to share the encounter.
I'd like to comment about that, what you were just saying. Like,
yeah,
that kind of added to my aggravation because on my own time, I kind of sought out, you know, I looked at whatever that, I guess, Patterson film or whatever, that didn't really look like, to me, it didn't look like what I saw, but that's neither here nor there. But I mean, I stumbled upon like some really stupid things, these hillbillies, and they're hunting. It was just stupid. And, you know, it's just like a bunch of drunken hillbillies in the forest and I don't even know. And I was just like, this is like demeaning to watch almost. It's like kind of like poking fun. This is not real, you know? And then I'm like kind of looking and I see like just random, I guess YouTube's not exactly the best place to be watching videos. Cause as crazy as this sounds, like I wanted to see it again for just double reference in my mind, like just to say, yeah, that's the one, you know, or whatever. And that's kind of how I found the show. And I was like, I listened, and people got to talk, and I was like, well, this guy is at least, you know, I need to speak to someone on the human level. You know, I can't, it's hard to just sit there and hold all this in and think that you're a crazy person and you're not a crazy person. And I just found relief and a little bit of fear in other people's stories, and I identified with it wholeheartedly. So thank you for allowing me to experience a little bit of relief, and thank you for what you do. That's
brother.
pretty much. I appreciate you.
Yeah, well, thank you for saying that, and thank you again for coming on.
Anytime. If you ever, you've got my phone number. You're welcome to call me for anything, anytime. I'll always pick up.
I appreciate it.
You're the only person that offered any consolation to me in this situation, and I'll never forget it. I'm still sweating. I'm still sweating right now.
You. Well, when you retell it, you relive it. But thank you for the kind words.
Anytime.
Thanks again, Doug. And that's it for tonight, everyone. Remember, if you've had an encounter, shoot me an email. My email address is wes@sasquatchchronicles.com. I'll see you guys back on Sunday.